Hello, one and all, and welcome to Entropy Sorted. Um, this first episode is going to I guess, yeah. It's going to be, basically an introduction to myself and who I am, as well as a little bit of background as to what inspired me to start this channel, and where I'm going to go from here. So I guess let's jump straight in. I'm going to go ahead and get comfy though, of course. So as the title suggests, somewhere between Willink, Peterson, and Huberman. Actually, no, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Let's go ahead and let's stick with the idea of introducing myself. My name is Robert, and I was born into a military family. Moved around a lot as a kid, 5 schools between 1st and 5th grade. My parents divorced when I was maybe 10 years old, 9 years old, somewhere around there. And although I love my father very much, I have to say that to some extent, not even to some extent, I'm deeply grateful for that development in my life, because it made me who I am today. I like when my dad left, I decided that I wanted to be a better man. And Dad, I'm not saying you're not a good man. As I got older, I understand now that life's hard. Things happen. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But at the time, I decided I wanted to be a better man, and that sort of, I guess, initiated the path that led me to where I am. Not to say that where I am is good. That's you'll hear about that too. I was kind of a shy, quiet kid in early school, and then middle school I was sort of a rebel, a little bit of a wild child, and then high school, I was just too cool for school. Then in college, I think I put a little bit too much emphasis on having fun, and so I kind of did the bare minimum to get by, and I still did pretty well. I've always done pretty well in school, but I realize now, looking back, that I wish I had applied myself a lot more, mostly because I just genuinely love learning, and I kind of want to be a lifelong student. But yeah, so that's early life, just super fast running through it. Gotta stop saying this is the very first episode ever, though, so I guess it'll have to do, because I'm not going to re-record this. It's 2025, so balls to the wall, if you will. Okay, so after college, I took a job. I moved away. My mom got cancer I graduated college in 2016. My mom got cancer in 2015. That was pretty hard. I started drinking in college, and then when I took my first job after, I drank pretty heavily, and I fell into a pretty deep depression, and I was just starting to climb out of that depression when I quit my first job and moved back in with my mother to help her out, as she was trying to deal with chemotherapy, hip replacement surgeries, things like that, just whatever, just drama. And I quickly fell back into depression, and I leaned heavily on alcohol, because I I tried really hard to be the positive, always, optimistic source for my family, and it took a toll, and so I used alcohol to sort of check out and to cope. I was medicating with it. Now, at this point, I had been in a relationship for maybe 5 years, I think, or so. Started dating this girl in college, and I I wanted so badly to make it work that I turned a blind eye to the warning signs. So, I'm drinking heavily. I'm depressed. I've got a relationship that just doesn't seem to be working the way I want it to. I later had to acknowledge that I was trying to change her, which, you can't do. My mom's sick, just all this stuff piling up. And meanwhile, I am terribly, terribly lonely. I'm terribly lonely because I didn't feel like there were people out there who thought about and cared about the types of things that I thought about and cared about. So it was just a really unpleasant place. And my mother beat the cancer. She got hip replacement surgery, was good to go. I found a pretty stable job, pretty reliable income. I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, and by all rights, everything should have been fine. That it was a very, I had reached a place where there was no reason for me not to start thriving and flourishing. But I didn't. I was sinking deeper and deeper into depression. I was drinking more and more, and all the while, continuing to feel incredibly lonely and isolated. And then I discovered the podcasting community. I discovered Jocko. I discovered Jordan Peterson. I discovered Andrew Huberman. And that changed a lot for me because suddenly I didn't quite feel so lonely. Because the things that they talk about, are the things that I think about on a daily basis, just all the time. And the things that I felt like none of my friends and none of my peers could ever really empathize with or relate to or wanted to talk about. And, here these guys are, and they're all discussing these principles and ideas and concepts. And it was amazing. It was a relief. And it started out kind of gratifying because a lot of the things that I was hearing these guys say, particularly Jocko and Jordan Peterson, a lot of these ideas and principles and concepts and values were things that I specifically had already concluded or made up my mind about, and things that I had already pondered, if you will. And so it started out as like a reaffirming, a reassuring kind of feeling. It's hard to describe. And then of course, because these guys are great men, they started to go on to topics beyond the things that I had considered and talked about. And so now I'm learning again, and now I'm intellectually challenged and stimulated. And so I really started to lean into these things. And then Andrew Huberman, oh my gosh, everything that Andrew Huberman's podcast has put out has been new information for me, and just incredibly informative. But watching these guys do what they do, it really is the reason why I've decided to start podcasting. I don't think that I'm quite as charismatic. I say too much. I probably get distracted and digress way too much, but it's kind of like Jordan Peterson said, like, you're gonna suck at everybody's gonna suck at new endeavors. That's kind of the price you pay for being the new guy in a given field of practice. So this is my attempt at being the fool. Okay, so I just paused the recording to vape. I figured if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right, which means I'm going to be completely honest and transparent, because the purpose of me doing this podcast, there's my dog, the purpose of me doing this is the, sorry, okay, he found his bone. If there's other people out there like me, and they can, empathize or relate to any of my story, then hopefully, as I document 2025 and my journey, I hate to sound cliche here, but document my journey towards like recovery and a better life. Hopefully the people who can relate to my current, situation or my recent experiences and everything, hopefully it gives them hope that they can do it too. Because it's a terrible thing when you reach that place where you're just stagnant, where you're just stuck. So why did I bring up vaping? I'm going to be completely honest and transparent about my faults and the things that, my difficulties, my hardships. So I guess let's launch into that. I've already given a brief background of alcoholism, of stress and kind of depression. I had relationship troubles, like I was saying. I kept trying to make this girl think the way I thought, right? And engage me in discussions, like, in deep, like intellectual discussions. And she didn't enjoy that. And I kept thinking, like, if I can just get her engaged, then, things will change. And I realized that I was wasting my effort, because you shouldn't, have to change people. If they want to change, great, but I didn't know it, but it wasn't a very healthy relationship. So I ended that relationship and I thought, hey, you know what? Now that I'm out of this relationship, I'm going to turn my life around. And can you guess what? I didn't. I kept drinking and I kept up all these other things that you'll come to hear about. I was in that stuck place, in that stuck state. Professionally, I'm an engineer. I graduated, like I said, in 2016. My first job was working for the Navy, actually, on the Aviate-B Harrier. It was a pretty cool job. It's a jet, the one that takes off straight up. Man, I did not put my best foot forward. I was showing up to work, like, basically still drunk the next day. Like, it was constantly just being, a general shithead. And then, after I moved home and I got my second job, which was in manufacturing, I was an engineer at a metal plant, and it seemed like a lot of my problems followed me. I was having so many interpersonal relationships where, like, I would put people off, I guess, especially like the older people that had been there. They had certain ways of doing things, and I didn't put a lot of emphasis on, maintaining, their practices. I was the word that was used a lot was arrogant, but I never felt arrogant. It never came from a place of arrogance, but I just struggled like with my work relationships a lot. Now that's not to say I was bad at my job. I was really good at my job. That's why they kept me. We had a stat, like I think we were at like 4 or 5 engineers when I started, and over time through like retirements or engineers leaving, I was able to actually maintain the workload, by myself for a while. So there was like a period of, I don't know, probably 4 months or something where, I was the only engineer doing the job of what was previously 4 or 5 engineers. So I mean, like I was competent, and I was technically skilled, but the thing is, nobody wanted to work with me. Well, not there was a few people, but anyways. So yeah, I mean, just I just felt like I was constantly fighting. Like every single day was a battle, and I didn't want it to be, but it was like, I'd see a process, or I would see a machine or something that was running like inefficiently or ineffectively, and I'd be like, oh, great, now I'm gonna have to go get the maintenance guy, and I'm gonna have to work with him, and I know that everything I say, he's gonna like kick back against, and I know that he's gonna like fight me on this, and he's gonna fight me on this, and it's gonna be like this big long process, and I felt like, why can't people just cooperate or like listen to me and blah 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 blah, and if you've listened to the Jocko podcast, then you already know, some of the lessons that I had in store. But yeah, so I had to go through that whole process of humbling myself, and I think that things started to improve there. But I don't know. I digress. See, here we go. This is the very first episode, so bear with me. But I'm totally off track. Okay, so I was staying up, and I still do. Like, I was staying up way, way, way too late every night, playing video games or playing chess. I developed an addiction to chess, actually. But yeah, so I'd get off work, and let's rewind. I'm so sorry, guys, but I'm not gonna edit this or anything. I'm just gonna post it because this is 2025. Got to do it. Okay, so when I moved back in with my mother, I'm working this manufacturing job, and I would come home. She's got a little farm with horses. I would come home from work, and immediately I would go out and start doing chores, right? Like I would start feeding horses. I would start maintaining fences if I had to. Like I would, do work until, I don't know, say 8 or 9, and then I would, finally settle down after eating dinner or whatever, and I would tell myself like, you've worked all day. You woke up at 5:30, fed horses, worked, came home, fed horses. You deserve me time. You deserve time to yourself. You deserve this time. And so then I would stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, just doing whatever I wanted to do, and then I would be terribly tired and miserable the next day. And I just kept doing that and kept doing that, and but then after I moved back out, and I'm, now I'm getting off work, and I'm actually like free for the rest of the day, and I'm not doing anything. And I still kept staying up until 3 in the morning, right? 4 in the morning, whatever, just playing video games, just playing chess, just, listening to podcasts, watching videos, just doing, general like nonsense. And so I realized, looking back, that even when I was living at home with my mother and staying, taking care of the farm and everything, that was just an excuse, right? Like all of the things that I was doing, I was using that as an excuse to justify just being like a shithead, being irresponsible. And the proof is the fact that I didn't stop after I moved out. I just was irresponsible more, So now it's like I get off work, I'm home by 5:30, and now I get to play video games or chess or whatever for 9 hours instead of 5 or something. I also used to be really athletic, by the way. I played sports. I played football. I wrestled, pole vaulted in high school. Triple letter athlete, all AP classes, all that stuff. But at this time of my life, like I hadn't lifted weights since college, and so I'm I'm still in fairly decent shape. This is back in 20, 2019, roughly. I was still in fairly decent shape from being in good shape back in, as far back as college. But I took zero effort to care for or maintain my body. And so, I'm I'm depressed. I'm staying up hella late. I'm just super self-indulgent. Absolutely no discipline. I'm feeling sorry for myself all the time, but I'm not working out. I'm not eating right, and I'm repeating bad habits. Like I know I shouldn't do something, and I would just do it anyways. And I just couldn't see, the like I just couldn't bring myself to change. I couldn't bring myself to like I shouldn't drink tonight. I need to stop drinking. I need to stop spending all my time playing video games. And then I'd get home and I'd be bored and I'd be like, what am I going to do right now? And instead of finding something productive to do, I'm like, screw it. It doesn't really matter if I go to the gym tonight because, it's just one night and I'll get busy and I won't maintain the routine. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get some beer and watch a movie. It's just terrible. And then the thing is, in my younger years, I was incredibly disciplined. Like, in fact, it was something that I used to pride myself on was like, if I ever had the thought, you should do this, then it was like, from that moment, it was like written in stone. You know, the idea was because you acknowledged it to yourself, because you thought to yourself, you should do this, means that you now have to do this. Like it might not be a big deal if you didn't, right? Like let's say my my bedroom floor had some dog hair on it, and I would think to myself like, you should vacuum. And then it's like, I could probably put it off for a couple hours or maybe like a day or two, and it really wouldn't be a huge deal. I could just vacuum then. But because I just acknowledged that I should vacuum, I have to do it right now. And so, yeah, so that was like, sort of my disposition, my mindset, probably all the way up until I was about 16. And then, I decided like when I was, getting ready to go off to college that, you know what, like, let me stop being so hard on myself. Let me stop being so disciplined. Let me just go and be a little bit more indulgent. Let me go and experience life. And that, I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But because I had that level of discipline then, I always assumed I'd be able to just switch it back on. And so I was like, nicotine, for example, I was staunchly opposed growing up, my whole life, staunchly opposed to smoking. And in college, I started dipping, and I was like, I have the discipline to quit whenever I want. And, then I ended up dipping for like 6 years or something, and, tried switching to vape to quit dipping. And then guess what? I wound up with two habits. Joke's on me. But here's the tricky thing about, going out and experiencing life and cutting yourself some slack. It is a very, very, very insidious evil, because you start to do it and it's fun and you get this, what I now know is a dopamine hit. and you think, oh, this was harmless. I've built this great, sturdy wall with discipline. And this little chip in it is really no big deal. It's of no consequence. And you can actually get away with that for long periods. You can get away with that for years, in fact, as I did. And you could still have like a sturdy looking wall. And then next thing you know, because you've gotten away with it for years, you think that you can just live that way. And 10 years go by, and I'm 32 now, by the way. And 10 years will go by, and then the next thing you know, your wall is like a crumbling, heap of rubble, and you're wondering what the hell happened. And it's like, well, what did you expect to happen? You've maintained absolutely no discipline, and you have put zero emphasis on personal maintenance, in terms of like going to the gym and things like that, and eating healthy, right? And you're drinking every night, and you thought that 10 years later, you'd be in the same place, you'd be as fit and athletic as you were in high school. Like, of course. So I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise. But the other edge to the insidious, nature of indulging is, after 10 years, not only is my wall in a heap, but like I've just got no motivation, to rebuild. And so, I've been so self-indulgent for so long that it's like every time now that I realize, like, oh, holy crap, this has taken a huge toll on my life, right? Like my mood, my mind, everything, right? I'm a deteriorated version of myself. But because the because the work of rebuilding it is less fun or less enticing, than the indulgent outlets, or preoccupations. And because you haven't told yourself no in so long, I mean, it's just incredibly difficult to sort of make that change without having some sort of big wake up call, like something goes terribly wrong, you have a tragic accident, like some major event, without having some major event instigate change. I mean, it's incredibly hard. And that's the other thing for my path and my journey is like, I've always been so comfortable, right? Like, I mean, I didn't grow up with much. I was raised by a single mother who raised four kids, right? So we were pretty poor growing up, but I was always pretty content. And I mentioned earlier principles and ideas and things like that. I've got a lot of them. And one of them has always been that, I don't care about money. I don't need money to be happy. And I mean, I can say honestly to this day that, that's one of the principles that I've held on to. I've held on to a lot of my principles, in fact. But, specifically, I've never really cared much about money or having nice, fancy things. So like, I, I, I mean, I can be comfortable and content in pretty much any circumstance. Like when things are bad, I can find the light in it, right? And so I was in a very self-indulgent place. I was very depressed. I was stressed. I was lonely in a relationship. But I was comfortable. I had a roof over my head all the time. I always had plenty of food. My ex used to cook, so I went from having my mother cooking for me to having my girlfriend cook for me. And, like I had no reason to change because life was comfortable and life was easy. Well, then I broke up with my girlfriend, and instead of getting my act together and learning to cook, like I just started eating out all the time. Like, guys, let me tell you, like I'm not proud of my story. I mean, there are, I think that there are good elements, and I think that I've done good. And maybe we'll talk about those things later. But I don't want to focus on the positive elements, from my previous 10 years, because that's not the point right now. The point right now is that we can reach these places, right? Like, I basically became a narcissist, right? So, like I was saying, I love like introspection, and I love philosophy and psychology. In fact, entropy sorted. That's kind of a pun. I think I'm clever, but that the name comes actually from not only entropy, which is the measure of chaos in a system, but the reason why it's spelled the way it is because my personality type is ENTP, which, by the way, if you haven't looked into any of Carl Jung's work, I highly recommend it. Incredibly, incredibly fascinating and insightful, research, and like that. He was a very, very intelligent man. So yeah, go read some, study up on some Carl Jung, Jungian psychology. Where was I even going with this? See, here we go. Jungian. Well, I'm going to pause just for a sec. Okay, so becoming a narcissist. In my younger days, I dedicated my thought towards right and wrong. So I was always very much, actually, I even going back before my parents divorced, I can recall at 6 years old, I had this fascination with like mastery of self, right? So physically and mentally, like I control, like I am this body. That means that I am in perfect, complete control of this body, and I can do, like, you know, I can do whatever I want, whatever I set my mind to, and this mind that I have complete control. Like, that was a thought that I had at 6 years old. Like, who thinks about that? Like, at six. But yeah, so then after my parents divorced when I was 10, I started dedicating my thoughts to right and wrong, and good and bad. That's why I say, I'm grateful that my parents divorced. So throughout my early life, though, all of my thought was dedicated to these principles, and to right and wrong, and to good and bad, and to like things like, hey, so if you get into a car accident and it was truly an accident, right? Like, you have no justification or right to be mad at the other person, right? Like, I mean, and this is just a silly example, but like, it was an accident, and so their intention was not malice. Like, if they were being careless, then maybe you can tell them, like, hey, that was careless, and now you've caused like problems. But actually, that's a terrible example, because if they were careless, then maybe you do have some right to be mad. But forgive me, guys. I find that, like, now all of a sudden that I'm trying to talk about some of the things I think about, it it's not coming out as fluidly. But let's think. Oh, I'll use work for example. So some of the principles that I formed in early life, I I prioritize like truth, and seeking the truth, so highly, like so highly. And I don't believe that there's any room for like ego, say, in like the personal, like in the workplace. And this is actually something that I think causes problems for me. But so, to me, it's like, if I make a mistake with my work and somebody says, like, oh, hey, there's a mistake in your work there, like, my reaction is gratitude, right? Like I would be like, oh, thank you for finding, this error, right? Like, because now I can correct it. And, now I'm that much better, right? Or like, oh, hey, this error has already caused a problem. I'm not going to like try and cover it up and fix it without telling anybody, right? I'll like openly say like, hey, look, this machine just broke because of, something that I did, because my only priority is getting that machine back up and running. And the best way to make that happen quickly, right, is if I have, the support from the people around me, to, all focused on getting it done. So, like, but that's not the way the world seems to work, right? Like most of the time, it's like if you see somebody's made a mistake or if they're doing something wrong or like inefficient, right, and you go up and you tell them that, they get defensive. People will usually feel like, who are you to say, or like, I don't know. But see, like, it never occurred to me, to be that way, right? Like, it never occurred to me to be like gentle about saying like, hey, look, I don't think that's going to work. Or like, hey, I see you troubleshooting this machine. Actually, it's a real example. I see you trouble this machine, but like, I don't think that you're actually looking in the right area, right? So the root cause of this issue we're having is actually something way, way, way before in the process. It's just that you see the symptoms from this error way down here. So like you're kind of wasting your time working on this over here. You need to redirect, your time over there, and it'll fix the problem. Well, you've got to be gentle about how you say those kind of things. You can't just say that because people get defensive. And so there's a life lesson. Don't treat people the way you want to be treated. That's one, because that's the golden rule. But no, it's not effective. Treat people the way they want to be treated. And I'm still working on that. I'm developing that too. I don't know. I guess I should have wrote things down. I need to start writing things down. We'll get to that, talking about changes I'm going to make in this new year. I wish I would have wrote things down before recording this very first ever episode, because I'm drawing a blank. I don't think I've ever had a thought in my life now. All of a sudden, I don't think I don't think I have any principles at the moment. But yeah. Okay, so let's focus on Jocko Peterson and Huberman, because that's a good place. So I think the first one I started to listen to like regularly was Jocko. And Jocko's idea of ownership. I was all about it because I'm very much into like radical honesty and ownership. And just all of these concepts of like, hey, like if a leader, if you feel like your leader isn't leading well, take ownership of that and try to build a more solid infrastructure, that gives your leader a more conducive environment to lead in. Like do what you can do, right? Like control what you can control. I was very much taken by those ideas, and I had a friend at my last job, and I used to come in and tell him like all the time, like, oh my gosh, man, like all of these things that Jocko's saying, like these are all things that I thought, like I've already thought, like like it was so gratifying. I'm not gonna lie, like it was almost hard not to like get all like gloaty about it, because it's like Jocko's clearly a great man, right? Like he, this dude's a Navy SEAL, right? But he's not just, some dumb meathead, right? Like, if you listen to the things that he talks about, right? Like he's a very like rational and very strategic and tactical thinker, and he's a very intelligent guy, right? So to hear him, basically reinforcing ideas that I've got, it made me feel really good because it was like, hey, look, and there were several instances where I would actually tell my friend something, like I would say something to him, and then a subsequent Jocko podcast would come out, and Jocko would talk about the same thing, and it's like I'd come in the next day and be like, oh, you remember I was just saying that, I was just talking about that, like last week, and look, Jocko's and yeah, so, but there's a disparity there, isn't there? Like I've got all these ideas and principles about right and wrong, and good and bad, and how people should live and how they shouldn't live. And in the workplace, I make, I do my best to lead by example and maintain all of those principles. And I think I do a pretty good job, but none of it translates into my home life, right? The discipline that I have at work, the I guess conscience that I have at work, right? Like if I'm at work and I see, oh, you know what, like these three presentations are formatted this way, this fourth one isn't formatted the same way, and they should all technically be the same. Like I can't just say like, whatever, screw it. Like I can't just leave it alone. It's like I have to fix it now because, that's the professional standard that I hold myself to. That level of drive and discipline just didn't translate into my home life, right? I would get off work and immediately it was just gone. Like, and I was just like this, pleasure seeking, like, I don't know. So lame. Man. So what I would really like for this podcast, and I'm gonna start wrapping up soon, I promise. But what I'd really like for this podcast is for me to discuss with you all, being, I don't know, nobody, if nobody watches it, which is fine because it's still kind of cathartic to like just talk. But I was hoping that I'd be able to like start this and just start talking about things that are important or relevant to me, but interestingly, it's like I'm drawing a blank, which is, anybody who knows me knows that is uncommon, that I never draw blanks. I'm always talking, which, I mean, I'm talking now, but hold on. All right, I know what I want to say from here out, and then I'm going to wrap up. So a little more about myself. Pretty much my whole life, I've always said that my greatest aspiration was to be a father. I cannot wait to be a dad one day. If I can ever put myself together enough to be, to be a partner for somebody else. Like right now, I'm just baggage, but, always thinking and never acting. But yeah, I cannot wait to be a dad. I look forward to it. And my life goal has always been, to better humanity in some way. And I mean that so sincerely. Like I still don't know how, but like, maybe since I'm an engineer, maybe I'll invent something that improves the quality of life for people, or maybe I'll develop a new system that will, make some sort of cultivation process more efficient, or make cultivating crops in arid environments. I don't know, but like, I desperately want to improve, the quality of life, or reduce the suffering of the world at large, with my life. That's what I want to do with my life, and that comes from a place of just deep love. Like I'm a very I'm a very empathetic and loving and like caring and, kind of compassionate person. And I can honestly say that I don't, it's not about ego. Not that goal. I did have a lot of ego issues, but I don't want to have that sort of impact on humanity, you know, to glorify myself or just to say that I did it, or, to be superior, or to be celebrated. Like, that's not why I want to do that. I want to do it because I genuinely, sincerely want, the betterment of mankind. Like, when you have a hard life, I think that that's it. I think that early trauma and early stress, I think it helps people develop in a good way, which if they respond properly, anyways. But because when you've had hardships and when you've had stress and when you've felt isolated, and when you've been in low places, you sort of feel for other people when they go through it, and you don't want that for them because you've been there yourself. And so yeah, I really do want to help the world somehow. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so why now? Why am I recording this now? Why am I rambling about a bunch of absolutely nothing? I think I've just recorded for 46 minutes and said nothing. And how is this going to be inspirational for anybody? Well, although I didn't start it in time, I am going to start changing my life this year in 2025. Jocko's got this deaf reset thing going on. Well, today being now the second, because it's past midnight. So I missed the first day, but that's okay by me, because of, I had some things going on. I'm not doing it for Jocko. I'm doing it for me. So I'm just going to shift his deaf reset back by a day and push it into, February. Because I stayed up too late tonight, which is one of the things that I have to change. I have to stop drinking. I have to stop eating unhealthy. I have to start working out, right? Like, I have to get some better mindsets. But yeah, so I've been basically inebriated for the last 10 years. I've got zero discipline. I've got a big heart and a lot of love. I'm fairly intellectual. Like, I'm fairly, intelligent, I think. But I've done absolutely nothing with it, right? And so all of this love and I feel like I've got this capacity to be a benefit to society, and I've just wasted my life and done absolutely nothing with it because I just think all the time and I never act. And so 2025 is going to be the year of action. And I know Jocko would say, well, then start right now. In fact, he did just recently. I listened to another podcast he put out like yesterday, and he's like, don't wait, start now. So yeah, sorry, Jocko. I didn't start on the first. Well, not really sorry, because again, I'm not doing it for you, so I don't feel bad. But yeah. Oh yeah, so I've developed a new interest, by the way. So I've always loved psychology and philosophy, like introspection, things like that. But ever since I started listening to Andrew Huberman, I mean, I never realized how much of the, how many of the conclusions that I've reached, and how many of the themes, I guess, because I mentioned, mastery of self, both physically and mentally. I never realized how much of it comes down to like neurology, but for example, some really fascinating stuff. I mean, this is just my word. Like nobody has to believe me. People can say, "Oh, whatever, that's bullcrap." But when I was younger, I used to like focus on being cognitively aware of what I'm seeing through my right eye, which is silly, but it was just like I was experimenting and like trying to, master my body. But yeah, I would like focus my attention on the perspective coming from my right eye. And then once I felt like I was really, really, really like just trained in on that, then I would focus to, on the same point, but now observing it through my left eye with both eyes open. And I noticed that when I would be focused more with my right eye, that it would help me sort of cognitively connect with parts of the right side of my body, which again, this isn't something that he's talked about, but I'm just kind of like giving an example. He's talked about other concrete things that have been established that I've been like, oh my gosh, that explains this or that. But because I used to try and like sense, I don't know if anybody's ever read Dune, but in Dune they talk about like these little 6-year-old kids would be sitting there and they'd be performing mindfulness exercises and like trying to like sense like individual muscles on their pinky or whatever. But like I actually, before reading Dune, I actually used to do that. And I used to like, actually my middle toe, that was the hardest thing to cognitively like sense and engage. But yeah, I used to like work through like my entire body. And I don't know, there's just a lot of really, really cool, interesting things that he's taught me over the years. So I am super, super, super grateful, by the way, Andrew Huberman. Keep doing what you're doing, sharing information, the dissemination of knowledge. That is, I wish that the whole world prioritized that, because I certainly do. I value it. So yeah. And then Jordan Peterson. I mean, just all three of these guys, right? So like Jordan Peterson is like soul, spirit. Huberman is like mind, and then Jocko is body, right? Like these are the three pillars of humanity. You've got heart, mind, and soul. Peterson, Huberman, and heart, mind, and body, which would be Peterson, Huberman, and Willink. Yeah, and I feel like, although not always in deed, but in thought, my life has been categorized by living somewhere in between all three of these great men, and it's been wasted because of my own self-indulgence and inactivity. But thanks to the example that these three men set, I'm going to dedicate myself to transforming my life into something that is fruitful, and disciplined. And I'm going to try to follow the example that they set, I guess. Not so much in the podcasting thing. I don't think that this is going to go anywhere. But in the sense that they have really made significant, they've really been beneficial to society in a broad way. Like they've helped a lot of people. All three of those guys have helped a lot of people. And through their diligent effort and hard work and discipline, they have been able to, make an impact, a lasting impact on society and on the way people think. And that's what I'm going to strive for. Maybe not so much the podcasting thing, who knows, but I'm going to strive to be the kind of man who can make an impact. Because why not? It beats the hell out of sitting at home and drinking, being bored and lonely and Addicted to chess. Oh, and that's a whole nother thing, by the way. Um, Man, chess makes me feel bipolar because it's like I can be in a great mood and like lose three consecutive chess games, and it's like I hate the world. I think it's something to do with the fact that you put so much like mental energy into it, and you really, really try, and it's just, it's it's rough giving it your like mental all, and then getting like mentally dominated, and the other person's just three moves ahead of you the whole time. I mean, it's a very aggravating experience. But I believe in sportsmanship. Even so, chess, man, that it has a way of just grinding my gears. So that's one of the things that I'm setting down for 2025. I mean, I might play occasionally. I might go to the little local chess club, but no more sitting on my phone until 4 a.m. playing chess. I'm going to nip that in the bud. I'm going to follow the rules of the Def Reset, of course. So I'm going to start getting up earlier, start writing things down, making lists. I'm going to eat healthy. Actually, I think the order that he says them in is wake up earlier, exercise earlier. You're going to start making lists, clean fuel. No, number 4 was actually hydrate or die. Number 5 was clean fuel, and no sugar coated lies, and reading and writing every day. By the way, I don't feel convicted for the reading part, even though I don't actually read. I'm a huge audiobook fan. Listen to all the classics. Everything on LibriVox. I've worked through it all, and then now I've got like 150 titles in my Audible library. So like I've always got an audiobook on, but so I'm okay with that. But I will do some writing, and then burpees. No, practicing gratitude is number 8, and then burpees is number 9, if I'm not mistaken. So I plan to adopt those, and for at least the month of January. And then I plan to continue getting up earlier, hydrating, and eating right throughout all of 2025. I'm going to start writing down the things that I want to think about and I want to talk about, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do an episode of this every day, and that is my promise to the hypothetical you. Some of them may be 5 minutes. Maybe I'll come home and I won't have anything to say, and so I'll just record and 5 minutes, post it. But I promise that I will make a recording every single day, barring special circumstances. I only say that I'm not trying to make excuses now, but I do know that life has a way of throwing monkey wrenches in your plan. I don't know, maybe I'm out of town or something. But every day that I can, I'm going to record something. I'm going to start praying. I haven't really talked about my spiritual journey. Maybe that's another episode. I'm sure that over the course of the next year, I'll cover it all. So, I tried to cram everything into this one episode and stalled out miserably and talked for an hour and said nothing. But I'm sure I'll get to it all eventually. But yeah, so most importantly though is documenting the transformation. So I'm not doing a great job, right? Because it's right now almost 2 a.m. So it's like, oh, you're off to a bad start, Robert. But I would argue that I'm not off to a bad start. I'm off to my usual start. And it is important and it's valuable that you guys get to see, I get to see, whoever, where I started from. And so, yeah, this is me today, January 1, now January 2, 2025. Staying up too late, still kind of chunky. Let's see. Yep, a little bit chunky. Still vaping. Still staying up too late. I think I already said that. Burning out. Yeah. Still basically narcissistic, right? Talking about all the thoughts that I have and the things that I've said and blah, 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 and blah, blah, like still inwardly focused. That's another thing I need to change in 2025 is I need to, maybe, there's nothing wrong with being like interested in psychology and philosophy, but I need to stop directing it inward and start directing it outward. As Jocko would say, look up and out. So that's another thing I'm going to change. And we'll see if my mood and my, disposition on life gets any better. Because I'm being cheery, of course, for the recording, but I would never commit suicide or never consider suicide. Okay. And if you are having suicidal thoughts, please get help. Talk to me. Like if you just need somebody to talk to, like, I'll talk to you. But with that being said, to be completely honest, I just don't really see, the value in life. Like that's like where I'm at right now. It's not that I will keep living it, whether I see the value or not. But like, I've just reached the point where it's like, what's the point? Like, why am I getting up every day and going to work, right? And working with these like dudes who are like, insecure and constantly like defensive, right? Like, why am I trying? Like, I don't have like, I'm 32. I don't have a wife. Like, I don't have my family. Like, I'm unhappy with work. I'm unhappy with myself. Like, I don't know. Like, and I don't see anything as getting better. It's like, this is just my life. This is what it is. And like, I've lost all sense of agency, of making things better. And I've stopped, like, I'm a very, very curious person. And like I said, I love to learn, always love to learn new things. And I like to understand things. I like to understand things fundamentally. I don't want to just memorize, details of something. I want to understand it to where I don't have to have the details memorized, because I can recall the details through the understanding that I have. That is to say, you can memorize 2 + 3 is 5, or you can conceptually understand that, if you had 2 and you had 3 and you counted it all, it'd be 5. There's a difference there, but, I lost that curiosity and I lost that childlike wonder, and I'm just a bland and sort of, I don't know, not great person. So throughout 2025, hopefully I find that wonder and that curiosity. Hopefully I find, my sort of extroverted intuition again. Hopefully I stop talking all about myself all the time, and hopefully I start talking about things that I want, for others, or like thoughts and principles outside of myself. I don't know. Hopefully, by the end of this year, the quality and content of the things that I record are at least better than when I started. And hopefully somebody draws some value from that. So, gosh, this is not going to be well received. This was a terrible podcast. There was no format, no structure. I said 100,000 times. But this is where you got to start. Another thing that I'm picking up for 2025. I've never had rhythm. I've never been a guy that had any rhythm. I can't sing and I can't dance. And so I love music, but I never thought it was for me. So I never even tried to learn. But I've just recently picked up guitar, and so I'm learning to play the guitar. And I can tell you from experience now, even if you think, I don't have any rhythm, like, if you're interested in playing an instrument, just try to learn, because you can play an instrument. I think, I don't know, Huberman, correct me. I think that the problem is like people who think, oh, I don't have rhythm because they can't sing or dance. I think it's because they're trying to, like cognitively like they're trying to cognitively have rhythm. Like they are intellectually, like in their minds, trying to maintain rhythm. Whereas rhythm is more of a sensory thing, right? Like rhythm engages, your physical nervous system, if you will. I think rhythm comes from a part of the brain that is more action oriented, and so maybe people who are locked in their minds, try to think about it and then lose rhythm or whatever. But I don't know. Anyways, I've found it a lot easier to have rhythm now that I'm practicing guitar than when I would sing or dance. Not that I do either one, but anyways, I'm still rambling on. Is there anything else I need to say? Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, January 1. This is where I'm at. Alcoholic, irresponsible, stay up too late. Abrasive to my colleagues, even when I don't want to be, even though I don't mean to be. No sense of agency. Don't really see the point of living. Not that I'm suicidal. Deeply unsatisfied. Deeply unsatisfied. And then often very depressed. So that's where I'm starting from. Actually, I've already made a lot of, like, maybe I should have. Actually, I do have some recordings. I recorded some of these months ago, when I was like real bad. And actually, at one point I passed out. I had a glass of whiskey, and I literally passed out in my chair, and recorded myself sleeping for almost an hour because I was like so drunk. So maybe I'll dig up some of those early awful videos of when I was contemplating the idea of podcasting, and really show you what it looked like when I was, in the worst of it. If that will be helpful to you, then I've got nothing to hide. I mean, I'd be happy to share it, but yeah. So I am better than I was, but I'm still so far from where I want to be. And this is the start. So the very first action I'm taking is this recording, is this podcast. I am going to post it, regardless of how embarrassing and terrible it is. I'm just gonna do it. Commit. I'm also gonna own all of my shit, right? So like, if I skip a day of the Def Reset, I'm gonna tell you about it, and I won't sugarcoat it. I'll be honest and sincere, and I hope that I don't, put myself to shame. I hope that I've got the strength and the discipline to really stick with it, and not embarrass myself in these recordings. I know I'm capable of it. It just comes down to discipline. So we'll see. Anyways, yeah. Like I said, Jocko, I know you say, do it now, but starting tomorrow, because I've already messed it up. I stayed up too late. But, if it's any consolation, it was to record this. So anyways, be good. And things will get better. I love you all. Bye.